Hi there, my name is Josie Engelhardt, and I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. And every week I say something to the tune of, I'm grateful that you're here because I am. And I invite you to trust whatever brought you here, whether it just showed up in the algorithm of whatever your device looks like, or someone shared it with you, or you've known me through one of my paths and are listening in, either have been for years or just started, however you got here. I'm so grateful that you are here. And I look forward to sharing this episode called Cancer, the Inner Battle with you. And I just want to remind you that I do have Tuesday mornings open for individual situations where I can sit and listen and reflect back to you who I see you as, what I hear, and what you share. And always, I can promise you, it's a better version than you see yourself in. I'm see the divine qualities in you, and reflect those back so that you can get yourself present to them as well. Since we all have them, and while many of them may never have been acknowledged or recognized, they haven't gotten to step to the forefront of your life and be sort of the leading force that guides what you do, what you say, what you think. Um, what you believe, all those things. And so the opportunity to acknowledge those qualities and allow you to see them and live from them is an honor and a privilege, and I'm grateful for that. Also, I don't have your answers. I'm not here giving you answers. I'm sharing tidbits of wisdom from my now 40-year of recovery, from healing from teenage sexual abuse, and then living with an eating disorder for 20 years. And this is my 40th year of recovery, and so grateful to be here. So, yeah, it's my hope you'll hear something in what I share that will help you take your next step, whatever that might be, and lead you further along your path of discovering just who you were created to be, so that we're not all living from our wounds and our hurts and our disappointments and our shame or guilt or whatever else might be directing how you live your day-to-day life and make your choices moment by moment. All right. So if you've been listening for a while, you know I'm on this journey with my sister, who was given a cancer diagnosis about, I don't know, I guess it's coming up on 2 months now. And since last week, we made several visits to specialists so that she's getting all the information that's available, along with all the study that she's done with alternative care and all the options, so she can make a choice for treatment moving forward. And I have to admit that if I were going to say anything to all of you, I would say you do not want to get cancer, and I don't want you to. And also, along those lines, I think even when I asked the variety of physicians, like, what is the source of this? Like, people who have studied these cells and worked with these cells and all this, I asked them, what do you see? And one of the things they point to is lifestyle. So please, please, please eat well, stay active, ground yourself in a belief system that empowers you and fills you with love. And yeah, and see if you can't design your life so that you're not stressed or worried, because all of those situations lead to a breakdown sometimes of our cells and the growth of what they call cancer cells, which are actually kind of enemies. If you look at it from an internal battle, it's like there's a battle going on inside of you. Uh, it's a good and evil battle, and it's going on inside of you at a cellular level. And it's those cancer cells are working against the design of your perfect body. Whether you think you have a perfect body or not, I believe you were designed perfectly. Of course, all of us have a tendency to focus more on what doesn't work or what we don't like or how we wish it was rather than the way it is. However, that might be one of those things we can all work on, and just appreciating how you are put together and the gifts and talents you do have, and whatever your body might look like. Because this battle that's going on it's against that will of those cells to thrive, the ones that do all the purifying and the pumping and the cleansing and the filtering and the elimination and all that. how that our bodies work, which is magical, miraculous, these cells are actually working against that. That's from just like, if you look at it from that cellular level in a layman's terms. The other thing that I've seen over and over again in friends who have dealt with cancer is oftentimes people who aren't very good at receiving. They're people who like to do for other people, may have a low sense of self-worth, diminish themselves, are difficult or demeaning of themselves. And so practicing like, no, you're amazing. You were created in God's image. So how could that be anything but incredible? And focusing on that. And all of us dealing with, what we see as our challenges / opportunities. It's easy to say, yeah, challenges or opportunities disguised, right? But to live that way, to look for the opportunity in the challenge. And then, when we look at what occurs to me as all bad options. So whether it's, you know, surgery or chemotherapy or radiation or whatever it is, it's all going to be a challenge. It's all going to take something. But oftentimes, in those times when we make sacrifices, there are also uh, gifts. For example, I don't know if I've told you this already, but helping my sister get to all of her appointments has had me driving again. So since August last year, 25, I haven't really driven except in small towns around town, but I've stayed off of main roads. Well, in order to get her to all of her appointments, I started driving. And so that had me looking at how when we do something for someone else, it actually also challenges us and is a gift for ourselves. So when I tell my sister, like, no, I've gleaned a lot from this already. Sure, you know, making room, having you come live here is adjustments, it's change, but it's also brought with it its many gifts. And I think that happens when we serve. And so this week, I'd love for you to take a look at how can you serve? How can you serve someone? Because oftentimes it's in service that we rise above our own limitations. I don't I don't know if you remember, if you've listened way back then, because I don't know, I think I'm on, I don't know, 300 and something episodes. But in one of the earlier episodes, I shared the story of when I was really dealing with severe throes of anorexia, and I was in a hospital and I was hooked up to IVs and I was bloating and I had this obese nurse. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And I remember thinking, I don't want to be here anymore. I can't do this anymore. And that night, I had this vision, in which for me has always been Jesus. It's always been like my guiding light, the love and the grace and the forgiveness of Jesus. And that night, I heard this voice that said, no, I need you to stay. And there was something about, and then he said, I need you to be able to share and help others. Now, I don't know where all that comes from, okay? I don't think any of us do. However, what I do know about that moment is the idea of being needed, of having some value or some worth, to the point where I could actually contribute to someone else, was a lifeline. And it reached past my desperation, um, that I was feeling, my hopelessness, my desperation, my frustration, my pain, my loss, all that. It reached through that as a lifeline, and I was able to grab a hold of it, and thus began sort of the early phases of at least survival. And so that's why this week I want you to take a look at how can you serve? Where can you serve? It may be something small. It may be in your immediate family, your community. It may be in a nonprofit, or it may be through your church or a soup kitchen or anywhere. Because when we can sort of get out of our way and look at the needs of others, it actually provides something extraordinary for ourselves as well. It's a lifeline for us when perhaps we haven't been able to see one, or even maybe recognize that we needed one. So that's what I'd love for you to do this week, is look at a place where you can serve, a place where you can contribute and make a difference. All right. And remember, lifestyle matters. all those things, how we eat, how we drink, what we do for exercise, how we take care of ourselves, the amount of stress we have in our life, how we turn things over to a higher power. Um, all of those things matter. So take that on. I'll be here next week. I look forward to seeing you then. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you soon.